Hello, and welcome back. Today we're going to be wrapping this steering wheel in some leather. This is my friend Reed's steering wheel, and we're going to use some of this fun bright blue suede for the project. It's a nice thin piece of suede, and it's a pretty small piece of leather overall, and so we're actually going to combine two pieces of it to make a panel that will be able to wrap around the full circumference of the wheel. When measuring, I'm actually going to make the piece slightly shorter than the full circumference of the wheel, so that way there's a little bit of stretch required to get it onto the wheel. When all is said and done, we want this wrap to fit around the wheel like a glove, and the best way to do that is to err on the side of slightly shorter measurements than what the wheel actually shows. And there we connected the two pieces using a French seam. I was thankful that my sewing machine was actually able to handle this leather. It's really not made to stitch leather, but for thin enough material, my sewing machine can be a trooper. For this part now, I'm wrapping the edges. I wanted to double up the edges just to add a little bit of strength, and my thought was to stitch over these folded edges, and then I was going to do kind of a cross stitch using the thread from this current stitching, but it didn't work. I think I broke 4 needles trying to sew through this part of the project that I eventually just gave up. Drew some dots of where I was going to want to stitch, and then I tried using my sewing machine just as a punching awl, like a stitching awl, to make some holes without any thread, but just some holes that I would be able to manually stitch through. Eventually, it didn't work super well. That's what I was trying to use at the beginning of this. And you can see me pulling the needle through with pliers just because the holes created by the sewing machine were not big enough to comfortably hand stitch through. So it was kind of an effort. And this whole project really is, the big effort is the hand stitching part, and so anything you can do to make that a little easier is going to help. What I eventually found to work best is using that awl right there to manually punch through each hole before I stitch it, and yeah, that was a real lifesaver. I don't know if my hands would have made it through this entire project had I not found this method, but that's kind of how these projects go. There's a lot of trial and error. This is the first wheel I have ever wrapped, and so kind of figuring it out as I go. Pretty satisfying project to work on, though. You can see there it's about 2/3 done, and using a classic baseball stitch. And again, it's just patience, feeding the needle through each hole and pulling it tight, and seeing that leather wrap around the wheel as it does. There we go, just about done tying it off. We don't want it to come loose. And here we go. I'm very happy with how this came out. There's no areas of slack or anything, which you don't want. You want the wheel cover to fit like a glove, which I can confidently say it does. It does fit like a glove, and I'm happy about that. You can see from this side, the stitching isn't perfect, but actually the nature of where the stitch lands, it's going to be pretty hidden when the wheel is actually on the car. So all in all, I call this a success. See ya.